All right. I'm awake. Oh my God. That was horrible. Okay. Let's do this. UFC Sao Paulo. Oh. UFC Sao Paulo, the event riddled by cancellations. That thing should have been cancelled by itself. The whole thing should have been knocked off. I mean, thank God Elvis Brenner gave us an amazing KO. If we didn't have that and Dalby and Bonfim didn't give us a show, there really wouldn't have been much to watch here. One of the biggest things that came out of this event, one of the most things that I want to talk about was the fighting nerd Caio Borralho. Sorry about how I pronounced that. It is what it is. But what actually stood out was his call out from that fight. He called out Dricus du Plessis, who even the broadcast team seems to have gone back to calling the #1 contender, which means it's very interesting, right? If we can actually read between the lines here, it certainly means that the UFC and ESPN have gone back to considering him to be the next matchup for Sean Strickland, which is really nice. That could be them responding to all the fan backlash after they've been trying to push Chimaev so hard. Or it could be them just sort of covering their bases now that it has been confirmed that Khamzat Chimaev has actually got a sprained hand and did suffer an injury from his fight against Kamaru Usman. So it's good to see that Dricus du Plessis is starting to get that recognition again as the #1 contender. Now, Caio Borralho, you can't go out calling the #1 or #2 contender depending on Khamzat Chimaev's injury. You can't go out calling a #1 or #2 when you're not even ranked yet, genius. I know that counting from 1 to 15 is very difficult, but there are many numbers between 1 and 15, and your name doesn't have a number after it. You can't just call out Dricus du Plessis. So just slow your roll here a little bit. Next week, we're gonna have Paul Craig versus Brendan Allen in your division. Two number 15 contenders going at it. So just call out the loser. It's going to be you versus Paul Craig next. And that's how you're going to get welcomed into the top 15. We're all going to have a good time. That's an interesting fight to go and watch. That's who I want to see Caio Borralho go and fight next in the top 15. Now, Abus Magomedov. He lasted a lot longer than 5 minutes this time, but he couldn't quite keep up the 15 minutes, could him? So that hype train has well and truly stopped. He got to about the 10-minute mark of the gas tank before he started to get those wobbly shoulders and that heavy breathing that we all recognize as an emptied out gas tank. He needs to go back, rebuild his cardio. He couldn't land any takedowns, so rebuild your striking game, and we'll see if we can get this train moving again going into the future. They are the two main things to take away, apart from everything else that happened on this card. The main event though, my God, I am being serious here. Have you ever seen such a bad main event in your recent memory? From your time watching this as fans, can you remember such a bad main event? To me, Israel Adesanya has the top 2 spots on worst main events ever. Him versus Jared Cannonier and him versus Yoel Romero. But this one, it could be the worst main event ever. It was so bad. And Mark Goddard, usually you are a good referee, but shame on you, man. Stand them up. Stand them up, bro. I get the first 3 rounds. You sort of want to see how this is going to play out. But the 4th and especially the 5th, when it was just pure wet blanketing, stand them up, man. Now, I could see Derek's plan throughout this fight. Derek was going to swing as hard as he could whenever he got the chance and they were standing. He was going to do his best to stop the takedowns, which Derek, fair enough, was doing. And then he was going to stay calm on the ground. He wasn't going to tap out. He wasn't going to let himself get choked out. He was going to stay calm on the ground. And when it was his chance to just stand back up, he was going to swing his way out of it and hope to get a knockout shot. And that was his plan, clearly. But holy hell, Derek. Once it's been 20 minutes, could we not try and get back up just with a little bit more urgency? Maybe you're gassing out, maybe it is what it is. Oh, but he just couldn't find a way to stand up, and it slowly slipped away from him and did turn into just a 25-minute wet blanket session. It was horrible. And then there was Jailton Almeida's celebration. He was celebrating like he had just won the World Cup or something. Like, Jailton, that was a horrible performance. I've never seen the UFC do this. I've never seen them do this. They actually brought up people complaining about the fight on Twitter. Like, Twitter was going nuts with how boring this was, and they actually put it up in their little live tweets thing that they do during the fights. I'd never seen them do that on the stream. That's how bad this was. And then after you're celebrating, like you've just won the World Cup, you've got the what I'm assuming is your local soccer team's flag draped around you, and you're giving like cartwheels and high fives. What's that meme of the guy like coming third and celebrating, like sinking the bottle of wine, kissing the girl that gives you the medals? That's what this performance felt like. Jailton, we love Derek Lewis, but let's face it, you took down a fat guy whose ground game is so bad, he is known for just stand up. And you think you're the king. You are horrible. You are the new pay-per-view poison. Watch how the fans turn on him after that. And there are some fellow shit talkers on YouTube. My fellow shit talkers, I've seen you. And I've seen you say that we hate Bilal Muhammad and we hate the Dagestani wrestlers because we are just racist. Well, you can fuck off. Because Merab Dvalishvili, Bilal, and Jailton Almeida are all in different weight classes and are all in different races, and they are all fucking boring as shit, wet blanket, contender killing, pay-per-view poison wrestlers. It's got nothing to do with where they come from. It's got everything to do with their fight style. They should never get a title shot. It will kill the business. Who wants to watch a main event with those guys on it if they're just going to lie there? No ground and pound, useless sub attempts. No one wants to see that. I hope Jailton Almeida has to go up against Curtis Blaze next. And then after that, go up against the loser of Aspinall versus Pavlovich. And then after that, go against the loser versus Cyril Gane versus whoever's the champ. And go up against the next up-and-comer after that. And then go up against the next contender after that. I want Jailton Almeida to have to go on a 17-fight winning streak before he ever sniffs the title, right? I want him to have worse luck than Leon Edwards did at getting a title shot. UFC heavyweight is so trash outside of the top 5 because those guys usually only have 5 minutes worth of gas tank and then they gas out and it's just a slop fest, which we saw on this card. If you inject Jailton Almeida into the top 5, that means you have everyone below the top 5, top 7. Let's give Alexander Volkov his praise. But you've got everyone below the top 7 at UFC heavyweight having 5 minutes of gas. And then you'll have Jailton Almeida in the top 5 just wet blanketing that as well. Who the hell wants to see that? If that happens, just sell MMA heavyweight to the PFL with Ngannou. Just sell it because you don't want that in the UFC. That is my reaction to UFC Sao Paulo. I hate the UFC going to Brazil. I hate it. I hate it. The crowd again. The crowd. Glover Teixeira gives us a massive career of MMA, gives us a war to end his career. He fights so hard, there is blood pouring out of his face over the commentary desk, and he has to retire to an empty crowd because he didn't win. He gave the Brazilians everything he had, and he retires to an empty crowd. Jailton Almeida gives us a 25-minute snooze fest, celebrates like he won the World Cup, wraps another sport's flag around himself like that is more important to him than our sport, and the crowd lose their minds like it's the best thing they've ever seen. The Brazilian MMA fans, why do we have to put up with them? It's so unfair to the rest of the world who appreciate these MMA fighters. Look at the pop that Charles Oliveira gets when he travels around the west of the world. Stop sending the UFC to Brazil. They don't deserve it. They don't deserve it. Gee. Anyway, guys, that is my take on UFC Sao Paulo. Great event, great main event, awesome. So happy we stayed up for that. If you guys have been enjoying these videos, maybe consider hitting that subscribe button down there. I want to take a minute to thank you all for helping me get to 300. That is such a massive step for small creators like myself. I appreciate every single one of you that click on these videos. I'm so sorry that we had to sit through this main event together. That was dog shit. If you've been enjoying these videos, maybe consider hitting that subscribe button down there, and I'll see you all in the next one.